What's up, you heathens and demons, you sinners and saints, you beautiful blasphemous bastards? It might help if I cut my microphone off during the intros there, so hopefully there wasn't too much of an echo. But how are you guys doing? I was not planning on streaming tonight, but I've been working a lot, tired as hell tonight. Been working a lot, really, and gaining no ground. I'm kind of living in desperate times, y'all. I don't like talking about my personal problems, though, because Christians talk shit. So, was going to have my camera on tonight. Wasn't planning on streaming tonight. Was planning on doing this tomorrow, but I have a feeling I'm going to be on the phone all day tomorrow. Not looking forward to it. Was gonna have my camera on. The lighting is just shit tonight, so I'm just gonna do it like this. It is like actual winter in Michigan now, finally, and we're about to get a big snowstorm coming in tomorrow night. So I think that this is fitting. A mess and a half. Yes, this was an interesting conversation, and I was gonna just mirror it. But I really feel like I need to address some certain parts of it, and just the overall feel, because I think we get this a lot as atheists. We're expected to give respect to the theistic position. We're supposed to and expected to give respect to theists, but theists don't give us no goddamn respect. And yeah, he was underestimating me. And I, we're going to get into it because, where he claims that I make fallacies, I might have one or two in there. I think that he, was stretching, to say the least. But also just the dismissiveness. I understand that me as an atheist, my positions on God naturally are going to be offensive to you. I'm not trying to be dismissive of you. I'm not trying to demean you. But if I'm having a conversation with a theist, my position is atheism. I'm having a conversation where I'm demanding respect as well. Hey, what's up, Sydney Winston? Hello, everyone, and hello, everyone that might be watching on the playback. And while I understand that my very existence and the way that I think about gods, and especially your God, is highly offensive to you, I'm not being dismissive of you. I'm there to have a conversation with you. I'm there to have an understanding of you. Now, I think a lot of things need to be said. For one, I was operating under assumption, and when you assume, you are making an ass out of yourself most times. So I think that that's like the one flaw that I had in this conversation. Was the entire conversation I was based upon an assumption that I had that Canadian Catholic had set this conversation up. Now, I know for a fact that that's not true. Now, after the conversation, me and James had a pretty decent conversation. CC took off immediately, but me and James sat and talked for a little bit, and James told me straight up, he thought that we had two very different styles. He thought it'd be interesting to bring us together, so he reached out to CC, and then he reached out to me. I assumed that CC had reached out to James wanting a conversation with me. And then, when he kept saying debate, this is a debate. Well, I'm like, dude, I was assuming that he had asked James for a debate, and or had implied that he wanted a debate, and that was never relayed to me. But just wasn't the case. James just thought it would be an interesting conversation, so he brought us two together. So I was assuming that, and I think that that's probably my one failing in the conversation, because I quickly understood going into that conversation that day, having watched, a couple things on that CC had been a part of, that he was going to want to have a philosophical conversation. I didn't expect, you're exactly right, Cryptomeria. Well, I did expect it, but I was hoping that I wouldn't get the rudeness and the disrespectful, just blatant dismissiveness, which happened immediately. So there's going to be times I'm going to run it on full screen. I was going to just mirror this and not do a review. But I think it requires a review, at least the conversation part. So tonight I'm going to review the conversation part. and then maybe do a part 2 and review the Q&A. I thought the Q&A was pretty decent as well. But yeah, so as we're going through this, there is this need in society from atheist and theist alike that the atheist needs to be respectful. And my position is you give respect when you're given respect. If you're not given respect, you shouldn't give respect. If a theist isn't going to accept you as the human being that you are, if a theist is going to just dismiss you right off the get, well, then you need to give that back to them in kind. Now, I also understand that theists love to have these philosophical conversations. Now, even though most modern professors, this is probably a fallacy. This is going to be important as we get into this review. But, it's just my understanding, like most modern philosophy professors that I have watched, and I've watched a couple now. I am trying to get into philosophy now. I was reading the ancients, but now I'm really I'm looking at lectures. A lot of people giving me, basic. I guess they're basically philosophy books for dummies. They kind of like to get you started. So I'm reading a lot of those. But I forgot where I was going with that. But essentially, Christians want to have these philosophical conversations, for one, because they know that not many people truly understand philosophy. I'm one of those. I don't pretend to be anything other. I had that conversation with Khalil Allah. He ran circles around me, and I'm like, all right, I need to learn a bit about philosophy. But at the same time, I'm never want to give ground to your justifications, whether they be intellectual or logical, for your belief in God. I want your fucking evidence. If you don't have any evidence, stop talking about it. But we'll get there once we get into the review. So, I guess without further ado, we'll get right into the review. I will have it on full screen, but I will be cutting it, so it'll be full screen like that, and then I'll be cutting down to like that, all of that good stuff, to give my review. So we'll get right into it. Let me put it on the screen. I'm going to go ahead and run James's intro. I thought it was a pretty dope intro. I love rap music. I love good rap music, so this was a pretty dope intro. So yeah, there might be times where I let it play. I do have permission to just run it, but I thought a review would be better because I think that this needs to be talked about. This dismissal that we received, and then this expectation that the atheists are supposed to rise above that shit. No, nah, that ain't me. You guys can go. There's plenty of other people out there that like to go around and talk about how good and nice they are and their respectful conversations. Fuck that. I give respect when it's given. I'm not gonna placate you. I'm not gonna massage your ego or give you what you want. Tell me why you believe in God and then defend the institution you're sitting there pretending is the truth. Defend that institution. Don't run away from it. So without further ado, we'll get right into this. My conversation with Canadian Catholic. It probably goes, if you haven't seen it, it's probably going to go just about how you might expect. So let's check it out.
I'm a saint.
What's up, girl?
Many claim they like riding, but I know that they ain't.
Ride or die.
I go hard in the paint, yeah, homie, I'm a saint.
Ride or die.
Many claim they like riding, but I know that they ain't. They see the red and they call me a devil, but mind the treble, let me level with you. I used to idolize rappers that paint they face, but now I rock the blood of Christ ever since I've been saved by grace.
Once again, thank you, Jay Payne, for that intro music. Guys, I put the link to his actual...
real quick, as we get this started off, once again, James is tired. The link to his channel is in the description. This is where this conversation takes place. I've actually checked out a couple of them when I've had time cleaning, listening to it in the background. Has some pretty decent conversations on his channel. Definitely worth giving a sub if you dig conversations.
like website where he's got all these different cool albums. Also, the link to both my guest channels are in here as well. So you can check out The Raging Atheist or Canadian Catholic. Um, and once, I think this is actually my first time streaming since I hit 1,000 subscribers. So thank you guys very much for helping me hit that milestone. There's a lot of cool.
All right, so we'll go ahead and go down here. I do also think I need to preface that, like, you know, I found Canadian Catholic just from this interaction, and despite the dismissive condescension that you're gonna pick up on, I found him to be a rather kind of refreshing and nice dude. You know, like, yeah, he was very dismissive, very condescending, but at the same time, compared to a lot of the Christians that I talk to, not all that bad. Like, he wasn't, you know, you know, he definitely didn't talk about my kid. He didn't, you know, he didn't insult me personally outside of the dismissiveness and the condescension. That was very insulting. But then again, you know, he might not have been doing that intentionally. He might be like, and I don't think that this is the case. You know, as we were going through it, I'm like, this guy, you know, he pretends to know a lot about philosophy, but doesn't seem to be making too much sense. You know, I can usually at least follow along with the philosophical jargon as it's going along, and it was really hard to follow along with this dude, but I think I had him flustered, and I'll point it out as we go through it. But yeah, I've heard things about Canadian Catholic. I watched that pre-show, you know, him going off about Matt Dillahunty. But compared to a lot of Christians that I've talked to, he wasn't that bad.
Cool features. There
What's
will
up,
be a
Dr.
chance
Cyrus?
for you guys to ask
I guess
questions.
I should say what's up to the chat real quick before we get into this. You know, I didn't expect, you know, this is a pop-up stream, so I didn't expect, you know, too many people here. And it's later than I usually go, but Crypto's here. Cryptomeria, what's up? Sydney Winston, what's going on? Brian Stevens, what's going on? Brian Stevens, Ox, Mac the Human, hey, Mac the Human. Phi is here, what's going on, Phi? Gurmania, what's going on, Gur? See, like, you still haven't been streaming, dude. You need to tell your girlfriend to, like, chill and let you have these conversations, because I've been absent myself, and we both can't be absent. Ox is here. What's up, Ox? The science. Oh, Jason Torn, really great comments in the side chat. I was reading your comments as I was checking this out, Jason, and you know, like, I think the other mistake, because I had a chance to go into a logical proposition of evil. I chose not to, because I really wanted him to address some of the things that the Catholic Church had done. If you're going to sit there and tell me, and I don't want to get ahead of myself in the review, but if you're going to sit there and tell me that the Catholic Church, the Holy Roman Catholic Church, is truth, then justify the actions of their history. If this God that is overseeing this Holy Roman Church is truth, if this God is real, then how in the fuck can they do some of the things that they've done? And once we get to it, I'm going to actually share some of the things that I had, because I only touched on very little of what I actually had that I wanted to bring up. This is like my first real one-on-one conversation with a Catholic. I've been in a couple GER streams with a Catholic, but that's an open room setting. I'm not going to go hardcore at a Catholic over the history of the Catholic Church in that kind of setting. I'm one-on-one here. First time really that I can remember being in a one-on-one with a Catholic. So I really wanted to hit him on, like, just because it's something that I've wondered, especially since, you know, the whole sexual molestation thing is blown up, and we all know what them Catholic priests are fucking doing to them little kids. Like, how can anybody follow this shit? How can anybody be associated with this evil? I mean, if you believe in evil, this has to be an evil institution. There's no getting around that, and that's what I wanted to focus on. So, but I think in my opening, I thought I brought up the problem of evil really well, and I fell back on the Sam Harris argument. Instead of using specific numbers, I used X amount of children, but, you know, like, just speaking to the, you know, complete lack of empathy of this God figure, if it does exist, granting its existence. I thought I'd laid it out, but he just claimed it was a fallacy, right? Like, it was, everything that I said was a fucking fallacy. But again, I am getting ahead of myself, so we'll just get right into it. I'll try to be quiet for a few minutes, and we'll let this thing get rolling.
I do got to stress this, though. Just tag my name for the question. Super chats aren't mandatory or anything like that. So just tag my name. That's enough. If you decide to super chat, that's fine, but your question will get thrown up without that. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce the guests, Rage and Canadian. Are you guys ready?
Oh yeah. So I think I'm starting, and I did kind of put something together just to kind of give my position as an atheist, and kind of why I reject theism in general, but why I reject Christianity and specifically. We don't know everything about the history and the origin of religion, but we do know that ancient people worshipped animals at first, probably, and feared ghouls and goblins. Those little things that go bump in the night outside your cave's campfire. And then they started to worship stones, and then they started to worship spirits, and then spirits in the sky, and so on and so forth. We began to listen to the people that claimed to hear the spirits in the sky. Then people began speaking for the spirits in the sky. It has progressed through all of time to the modern era until now. We're expected to listen to the people who are giving us their interpretation of a translation from a copy of another translation of what somebody said about what the spirit in the sky wanted you to know. For me, this is an absurdity, a silliness that really shouldn't even be spoken, let alone be the topic of serious debate and discussion. It seems to a very easy decision between a lack of belief in a deity no one has ever been able to prove exists than a belief in a monstrous deity put forward by the Christian position. Why do I say monstrous? I think this is very easy to legitimize. The best way I've ever heard it put was an argument I first heard espoused by Sam Harris, so I will go with that argument with some improvements of my own. Let's talk about the question of theism from the Christian claim based on the reality that we live in today on this rock that is spinning around the sun. The reality of our modern world as it exists today, but with this tidbit. The God of the Bible does exist and is watching our every move because we are indeed the center of the universe. Earth is where all the action happens, baby. A modern world where an X amount of children die every year before they hit the old age of 5. That would be an X amount per month, per day, and even by the minutes as they count away before I finish the point I'm making. A child has passed before they hit the age of 5. Of these X amounts of children, most have parents watching over them, praying and begging the deity they believe in, because the vast majority of them would believe in some deity or another. These parents will not have their prayers answered by any of those deities, not by the Christian one, all of the Hindu ones, Buddha or Allah, or any of them. I'm almost done. And this Christian God that we are granting an existence to, it is watching all of this, hearing these pleas with deaf ears. It has the infinite power that could stop all of that death, all of that pain and suffering, but chooses not to because that might break a free will it gifted us, which makes no sense at all if you just stop and think about it. Such a God that has a power to stop such senseless death but does nothing is either impotent in its existence or downright evil in its intent. And that is just the children dying before the age of 5. Not all the other injustices, not all of the other children that die before the age of 8 or 11 or 16. A large number of these people dying either before their time or right at the end of it. A good chunk of them happen to be praying to the wrong God. They lived good lives, was a good spouse, a good parent, a good role model to others around them, pious in their religious belief, but in their ignorance, I guess it would be nice if I turned my microphone on, huh? That might be nice. Just pause it and just silence, and I'm sitting here rambling on. All right, so I just cut it to let you guys know that I actually ended up cutting my opening short. What I had written, right now I'm laying out Sam Harris's argument, but I had written more, and I had added on, my own little tidbit, and I'm I thought of it. I'll claim responsibility that I thought of the argument, but I'm not going to claim that I was the first to ever think of it. I'm sure somebody's heard of it before, but like my argument, and I laid it out in the pre-show, is basically Sam Harris's argument, which is a problem of evil or a problem of a lack of empathy, I guess you could say. If God is inhuman, then it wouldn't be evil to God; it would only be evil to us. But I go beyond it, even though I'm going to cut it short and not deal with the part like I did in my pre-show, talking about how not only am I going to be punished, or is somebody that's believes in a different God going to be punished, despite whatever good lives they might have led. They just believed in the wrong God, or they believed in no God. The demons and the fallen angels and Lucifer himself, who's going to be, I guess, presiding over hell for an eternity, overseeing this eternity of torture of human beings, the human beings that supposedly God loves so much that it caused a civil war, with his angels, because he loved us so much. He's going to punish us for eternity for not believing in the right God or in believing in no God. But he's going to reward these demons, these fallen angels, with an eternity to carry out their lust for torture, their lust for evil. He is going to punish us, but he is going to reward what should be his true enemies, which would be Satan and the fallen angels and the demons that are going to be torturing us nonstop for eternity as we're burning in hell. Depending on which, Christian tradition you follow. I'm sure that there are more progressive Christians that don't believe in demons at all. And I think even the Catholic Church has come out and said, well, that's kind of allegory. So it does depend on what you believe in, but these are the things we're told as children, right? So what about the punishment for that? What about the punishment for the true enemies of God? Am I an enemy of God because I don't believe in a God, because that God set up a system of ignorance? That God doesn't make himself known plain as day, so in my ignorance, I don't believe in this God, and yet I'm to be punished for an eternity for that, and yet the people that openly rebelled, the beings that openly rebelled against said God, gets an eternity of reward for their rebellion. They get to actually feed on us, those humans that they despise God so much for loving. They get rewarded with us. Does that make any sense at all to anybody? I should have really, I was rushing because he seemed like he was really wanting to get into just being dismissive and condescending as fuck. So we'll continue. They committed the unforgivable sin of believing in some other God due to a lack of evidence in the outright existence of Yahweh. All of these good people will burn for eternity right alongside me. Marshmallows for the demonic forces that should be God's true enemy, not I, who dared question its existence. So that's why I don't believe in none of this nonsense. And I think my position is the easy one to have. Unfortunately, I'm a select minority. So I look forward to the conversation that we're going to have. All right, I'm just going to stop muting my microphone, because if I do pause it and give you a little tidbit of information, then you just hear silence. So you'll have to hear me smoking my bowl and all that good stuff.
I see. James, do I respond here, or do I just introduce myself? What do I do? Oh, our moderator seems to have left. So I guess I'll just jump into a response.
So what I'll do is I'm gonna be in the background, but I'll come up if like it gets crazy, shots start getting fired too much. But I think it's gonna be a good conversation. And the next time you should hopefully see me will be when I come up to remind the audience that questions are coming, and then go from there. Thanks, guys.
Okay, no worries. Yeah, so that was a forceful opening, I guess, from Rage. Is that the name? Unfortunately, I don't think. I think that we need to prioritize sound reasoning skills. We need to hone critical thinking skills. And I don't think I saw them on display. I'm not trying to be mean to Mr. Rage, who I believe would agree with me. I just don't see them. So in the opening, I spotted three fallacies. The first one was the genetic fallacy, which is supposed to be the argument that because religions have a supposedly spurious origin, for which no source was provided, therefore this goes on to, I guess, hint that they are false or something. Nothing was provided here other than this genetic fallacy, which I don't see. The other was the strawman fallacy, to refer to God as a guy in the sky that wants you to interpret things. No classical theist, and certainly no one who's a Thomist interprets it that way, like me. Not in the Catholic tradition, not in the traditional Protestant tradition, not in the Orthodox tradition. If Rage wants to argue with some people who do not have a good grasp of the Christian faith, that's fine, but I was invited to debate, not somebody else. So I'm going to be arguing the classical Catholic position. The traditional Protestant position is also fine, and the traditional Orthodox. None of them actually accept this nonsense definition that New Atheists made up. The other was question begging, saying that nobody has demonstrated the existence of God. No theist has any reason to accept this. I've done many series on many demonstrations of God, so starting from wonderful, wonderful reasoners like Avicenna. I'd be happy to get into the Leibnizian arguments, so on and so forth. But this is asserting this is just question begging.
It gets a bit hard, guys. I'm going to warn you. So, real quick, that his entire thing is just dismissing me. I said fallacies. The genetic fallacy, not true. I mean, so when I speak of, humans worshipped animals at first, that's just history. That's what we know. That's what the archaeological record shows us. And then we started worshiping stones, and then we started worshiping people in the sky. This is all just history. And yes, I'm being a bit hyperbolic in the way that I put it in my opening. But I'm doing that intentionally because my position as an atheist is I don't believe in this silly bullshit. Now, if you're a theist, I don't mean that to be demeaning to you. I don't mean to say, oh, you believe in silly stuff. Oh my God, you're so stupid. No, not by any means. That's just how I see it. That's where I'm at. You don't have to see it that way, but I do. And I have pretty good reasons for that. And I laid those reasons out in my opening argument. Now, you can call those fallacious just to dismiss them because you probably don't like the argumentation. So I'll remind you. Religious belief started about 200 million years ago. It started with us worshiping animals. We were afraid of the ghouls in the night. Bats would fly into the cave and we're like, demon! Oh my God! But it was a fucking bat. And then people started worshiping stones and then, they started worshiping, deities in the sky. Or, non-combobulated minds. Whatever it was. And then people started speaking for these things. And we started listening to those people. Well, you fast forward millions, thousands of years to the modern era that we live in today, and now we're listening to people giving a translation of an interpretation of something that was written down, but we don't even have the original fucking copies of what was written down, and now we're expected to believe these people so far removed from the actual happenstance of the event. It's ridiculous. It's like the oldest game of telephone. Y'all remember telephone? Like when you were in elementary school and your teacher would start with somebody and she would tell that person and that person would tell the next person, whispered in their ear, and it would go all around the class. By the time you got to the end of the class, it was something completely fucking different than what you had started with. That's what religion is. And pardon me if I don't take it too fucking seriously. I'm an atheist. You're talking to an atheist, right? That's one. For two, James just brought two people for a conversation. This isn't a debate. We have a very loose topic, atheism versus theism. I'm an atheist. I'm giving you my atheist position. Your God is silly. You're a Catholic. Give me your Catholic position. Tell me why your Catholic God isn't silly. Prove me wrong. So that's where we're at in the conversation right now.
mostly we were provided with absolutely no reason to prefer Mr. Rage's worldview other than he emotionally is inclined at. The only one we came close to was the problem.
Great comment, Seraphim Hyde. What's going on, Seraphim Hyde? Jesus is a lich. I say lich. I know it's lick, but I played Wrath Lich King, and we all called it Lich King, and not Lick King. So yeah, Jesus is a lick. Zombie Jesus just sounds better. I agree.
Problem of evil. However, it lacked any kind of structure. We had no idea whether this was supposed to be a logical problem, evidential problem, nothing other than simply saying, well, we see this stuff, and how can God watch this? And I mean, I don't know. I guess I don't have sympathy for people who just come to show emotional incontinence. I'm interested in arguments and sound reasoning. I didn't see any of that. Nothing that Rage said was anything.
All right, so I'm going to totally grant him that nothing that I said, although I did throw the problem of evil in there. You claim a genetic fallacy. I thought I just threw in, a fairly accurate history of religion in there. Maybe a bit condescending, but I am condescending to religion. I'm not being condescending to you. I'm not dismissing you. I'm not dismissing your thoughts, but I am dismissing your God. So I thought, like my opening statement, I put it together in like 25 minutes, right? I had looked at the Sam Harris argument. I looked at a couple other arguments. The one about the sky god, like interpretations of interpretations of interpretations. I think that was a play off of something that Matt Dillahunty had said at one point. I wanted to make sure that I used something Matt Dillahunty had said, considering like the pre-show where dude was just like going all in on Matt Dillahunty. Like, I had to include something. I don't think he picked up on it though. I did include, I thought, a couple logical arguments in my opening, but I wasn't there to argue logically. I'm not there to, stop you from being a theist. I'm there to try to understand you a bit. I'm there to try to figure out if you're a good interlocutor, somebody that I'm going to want to talk to, or if you're a bad interlocutor, somebody that I'm not going to want to talk to. And usually I'll even talk to those, but I'll just know what I'm talking to as I'm talking to them. But more than anything, I just want to know, why the fuck are you still a Catholic? How are you still a Catholic? That's what I want to know. I'm not there to have a philosophical conversation. If you want to have a philosophical conversation, and he's going to play like he doesn't know me, but he does. He knows. If you want to have a philosophical conversation, my dude, go talk to a fucking philosopher. Danny will talk to you for fucking hours. I'm not that guy. Tell me why you're a Catholic. That's what I want to know.
Other than a bunch of fallacies, genetic fallacy, strawman fallacy, and question-begging fallacy. And the fourth one was an unstructured presentation of the problem of evil, which I submit he's given me no reason, certainly, to doubt either God or believe I'm wrong. If anything, he simply demonstrated that he doesn't know how sound reasoning works. So that's my response.
Yeah, you're probably right. So there's the dismissiveness right from the get. Now, I believe your God is silly, but I haven't dismissed you. I don't know you well enough to dismiss you. But now you give me every reason I need to just fucking dismiss you. Because you have dismissed me off the get. I'm an atheist. What I think or what I say doesn't matter. I'm obviously not presenting it to you the way that you would present it to yourself. Well, you're not talking to yourself. You're talking to me. And I came with my own agenda. You have yours, I have mine. I don't think Canadian Catholic was ready to have a conversation like this. I will I will admit, every single time I get trapped up in a philosophical conversation, I ain't ready for those. I don't know shit about philosophy. Until 8 months ago, ain't never read a philosophy book ever in my life, outside of like reading the Communist Manifesto in my 20s. That wasn't, to me, that when I read it the first time, it wasn't about philosophy, it was about politics, about learning about this Marx dude. So there we got it. Right from the get, from his opening at the very end of it, just complete dismissal of me. And that's an issue. That happens. That happens so much. That happens almost every conversation. Even if it's like a good Christian, Even if it's like a decent Christian, like that Christian vlogger, great dude. I love the guy. We're like really good friends, but he will just sometimes be very, very dismissive, and he doesn't even realize he's doing it because he doesn't like what I have to say. He doesn't like my position, so he has to dismiss it. And it's a natural human thing to do. It really is. It's a natural human thing to do. But if you give me some solid, good reason for me to believe in your God, I'm not gonna dismiss it. Ask anybody. Ask Khalil Allah. I didn't just dismiss Khalil. I listened to everything he had to say. I gave him credit when credit was due. And still, little wary to go into that argument of contingency with him because he's really good at what he does. Although I know, some of y'all that know philosophy, he don't understand ontology and epistemology and all that. But, to me, a layman's layman of philosophy, like Khalil is good at what he does. I'm not going to just dismiss that. But now that you've dismissed me, well, the games can begin.
Sorry?
So you're probably right.
So do you want to try again and give me good reason to not be religious?
Well, no, I don't think I need to give you good reason to not be religious. I'm not here. That is actually a really honest take, Wilkin K. That Wilkin K just summed it up. It was two people having two separate conversations. You're exactly right. Two people, two agendas, neither one of us wanting to budge off of our agenda. That's what this conversation was. You just summed it up, Wilkin K. Yeah, you're paying attention. Here to try to argue into not being religious. That's I came for a conversation about being an atheist, and I really wasn't given much information about what this conversation was going to be about.
I wasn't thinking.
So I'll roll with it. If you want to. I mean, I'm sure you know who I am. You've really tried to have a conversation with me in the past.
No, I haven't.
Whatever. So. I mean, I don't know what kind of conversation. Not like that. All right, so right there, and I swear I'm not going to stop us like this through the whole thing. And I always say that, and I usually do. I think it's like habit for me sometimes. But there, I just have to stop and say, and and James thought it would be funny if I went back and found like one of the comments, but it would. I thought it'd be a good idea, but it would be like a needle in a haystack. But I clearly remember having a conversation. I believe it was with Ocean Keltoy, but it could have been with Dragnot Silvis about Canadian Catholic wanting to have a conversation with me, and they told me not to do it. And I had no idea who Canadian Catholic was at the time. This was a couple years ago. So like he knows who I am. So this like pretending like you don't know who I am, pretending like you don't know that my thing ain't philosophy is kind of disingenuous. I have to say, like I find that to be highly disingenuous. But like I said, finding the proof of that is like literally trying to find a needle in a haystack. So I didn't even try to do it because it would be probably I'd have to get lucky to come across a comment or something like that. Unless like there's still an old email in my emails, which is possible because I never go through my emails anymore. But to me, that is disingenuous. I clearly remember having a conversation. I believe it was with Ocean Keltoy, but it could have been Dragnot, about Canadian Catholic reaching out and trying to have a conversation, and them clearly telling me, dude, don't talk to that guy. Don't talk to him. And that you really want to have. My position is that I find theism to be silly, but, do you, boo. I don't get kind of what the conversation you want to have is.
So my view is that what we view as silly isn't a good arbiter for what's true. Okay, so that's my view. My view is that
convince me that your Catholic Church is the worldview I should be following.
I wasn't talking about that. I just want to first espouse. So you seem to think that something seeming silly to you is a good epistemological guide, and I fundamentally dispute that. I don't think.
I don't think I ever said that.
You just said that something seems silly to you, so that's.
Yeah, I mean it's silly to me. I never said it's a. Bond, I wouldn't be so sure. Drag been around for a while, and CC been doing this thing for a while too. But it like my gut, like the memory is it was Ocean, but I had a lot of conversations with Drag as well, so I threw Drag in there. But more than likely, it was with Ocean Keltoy. Good epistemological guide. I just said I think it's silly. I find that personally silly.
Okay, but then that's irrelevant if it is not.
Maybe.
So do you want to talk about relevant stuff?
Sure. Whatever you want to talk about, bro.
Sure. So you came in to argue for the atheist position.
I came in to argue like, I'm an atheist, so let's talk.
Sure, but the arguments you gave and the reasons were all bad. So am I supposed to argue for something?
I mean, maybe all right. So right there, like my reasons are all bad. Like, did you even listen to my reasons? Did you even give them any time of day? Like the question of granting the existence of your God, saying, yes, your God is up there. Your God it cares about what we do. It's watching what we do. It understands what's going on this planet right now. So it understands that every year 9 million children die before they reach the age of 5 years old. It understands that. It hears the pleas of those parents. You don't understand that argument? You're gonna acknowledge I presented to you a problem of evil argument, but you're gonna claim it wasn't logical, so you don't respond to it. You don't get to just dismiss the arguments, claim their fallacies, so you don't get to respond to them. I think that's a damn good reason not to believe in your monstrous God. The fact that your monstrous God hears our prayers, hears the prayers of those parents who are losing their children and does nothing. At the least, it points to an inhuman, lacking empathy being. At most, it points to an evil, monstrous creature that has no care for us whatsoever. I think that's a damn good reason not to believe in such a thing. Personally. Start with, your definition of God. Like, what God do you want to talk about? And then like kind of lead me on why I should believe in this God and not in other gods.
Yeah, so I'm a Roman Catholic Christian, which means I accept the Bible.
Why do you follow like why would you be associated with like the Roman Catholic Church? Now we're getting into what I want to get into. You think it's true? Yeah. This is my agenda. This is why I wanted to talk to a Catholic. This is why I said yes.
It has true teachings. Yeah.
Like, what about all, like just the atrocious things they've done throughout history?
So that's, again, another genetic fallacy.
Oh, so, but I mean, that doesn't matter because it's a genetic fallacy. Yeah. Like, I don't know. I think that I would just... I don't know. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think he quite understands what a genetic fallacy, because I think, like... I'm trying to think how to word this, because I need to word this right. Like, if it's accurate, if it's relevant, it's not a genetic fallacy. It needs to be irrelevant information to be a genetic fallacy, right? Correct me if I'm wrong on that. And I think that the history of the Catholic Church, from its infancy up until its modern era, is very relevant. If you're claiming that the Holy Roman God is the truth, I think that's very relevant, because this Holy Roman God would have been overseeing that institution that did all of these atrocities. This is my agenda. This is why I'm here that evening. Just be like at least wary of associating myself with an institution that has a past, anyway, that the Catholic Church has a past of.
Yeah, but this is why, once again, I'm doubtful of your truth-seeking skills. Because, again, what is true is independent of how it makes you feel, right? So the fact that yeah, so that's my point.
And real quick, that's like my new strategy. Somebody's just dismissive or rude, I'm just going to be like, my strategy, we'll see if I can actually carry through with it every time, is just to be like, yeah, you're right. You're right. I'm a dick.
Right? We want to get to critical thinking.
Truth, like, well... explain to me what your God is and why I should find truth in it.
Yeah, so, I mean, okay, this is switching gears. So basically, I'm a Roman Catholic Christian, which means I am a Christian. I mean, I don't know if you've engaged with Roman Catholicism, but it's not that different than Christianity. I mean, it is Christianity, after all. For a lot of people don't seem to realize that. So I believe what many Christians believe.
This would have been a perfect opportunity for me, because I had it on the side burner to bring up, and I never did, and this would have been the time to do it. The whole Eucalyptus miracle. I wanted to ask him about the Eucalyptus miracle. I wanted to ask him if those wafers actually transfigure themselves into the flesh of Jesus Christ every time you eat them? Are you actually eating actual real human flesh every time you go to Mass? Because, inquiring minds want to know if you're a cannibal. For real. Slightly different than Christianity. I would say, some fundamentalists, they believe in that whole transfiguration thing. They believe they're eating the flesh of Jesus Christ and they're washed in the blood of him. And yeah, we as atheists, we have fun with that. But like Catholics, that's a real thing. So I meant to bring that up, and this would have been the perfect opportunity to bring that up. But I didn't have it on my computer screen. I had it written on some notes. And that is a mistake for me now because I'm really used to looking at my computer screen now.
I'm an ex-atheist. I was raised non-denominational and stuff like that. So I believe the Bible. I got a bunch here.
Well, you was raised non-denominational, but you also threw in like ex-atheist. So you didn't believe in a God?
No, I deconverted after denominationalism, and then I became an atheist. So I was an atheist for a year, and so on and so forth. It's like long story, basically.
A lot of a lot of Christians say that they used to be atheists, but a lot of atheists say they used to be Christians. So I guess we're even there.
No, yeah, that's fine. I've been both, so I have an edge over both. I've been an ex-Christian and an ex-atheist now. So the point that I'm making is I don't think that new atheists, particularly people who maybe do not value the depth of religion and do not respect the religious arguments, are not treating the subject with importance. And I think that results in failures, which I would say happened with your opening statement, where you came in confident and made so many mistakes, right?
Is there like, all right, so like, and there's like you atheists must put a level of respect into this. You must find importance in this conversation. We're talking about my God here. Show that respect. Why should I do I show respect to a 5-year-old? When my 5-year-old daughter had an imaginary friend, did I give that respect? I gave it respect in the sense like I tiptoed around it because, it's a sensitive thing and you don't want to damage your child. But I knew the thing wasn't fucking real. Right? Show me why I have to give respect to this. You're making the claim that this thing exists. I used to make that same claim. I don't make that claim anymore. I stopped believing in that claim. Show me why I should believe in that claim. And you're going to see this. I'm going to ask for it once, maybe twice, to give me the evidence. To give me the evidence that he's going to talk about having. But he never does. And I'm not trying to pick on CC here. Like I said, compared to most Christians, seems pretty decent. There is no evidence for God. There might be logical arguments that you can justify your belief. I'll grant you that. But there's no evidence. And those same logical arguments, well, they've been disputed by far smarter people than I. Why do you need me to do that again? Do you want to put yourself in that and make yourself feel that smart, like you're having that original conversation when it's not original at all? Or do you want to have an original conversation? Do you want to get to the meat of it? Do you want to talk to an atheist? Or do you want to show how philosophically inept an atheist can be? Because I would say the latter there, that's not trying to save a soul. That's not trying to bring a soul to eternal paradise in the belief in God. That's just being a condescending prick. And it matters not. All of your logical arguments, your syllogisms. Now, I'm not saying philosophy isn't important. I'm saying it matters not in the scope of a complete lack of physical and real evidence for the existence of a creator of the universe. a creator of the universe, to where if it was just the creator of the universe, okay, maybe, whatever. But a creator of the universe that actually looks at us and cares about what we do. Cares about if we, if we're in the shower and, we're soaping up our bodies, and you get to that special area and you soap it up and it feels a little good, so you soap it up a little too much and then, oh my God, you're going to hell. That kind of God, right? That kind of God. Like a rule book, some requirement that we should show respect to that which shows us none.
No, the requirement is that you have to show respect to the truth-seeking skills. So you don't have to show truth.
Do you show respect to our truth-seeking? Like, you're completely dismissing my ability to seek any truth here, saying that, I'm giving fallacies when I would kind of disagree with. I think maybe you're looking for fallacies that might not quite be there. But beyond all of that, I mean, you want to have a philosophical conversation. I'm not really interested in that, but we go down whatever rabbit hole you want to. I'll try to follow along. But I don't really get, like, are you giving us the respect? Like, are you giving, you're just dismissing my ability to find any truth? Oh, you're an atheist. You're assuming that you say that I straw man you, but you're assuming a lot about me, although you claim to know not to know anything about me.
So I don't know personally about you, so I have no animosity against you because I found out about you. I mean, I don't know if you've said that I've contacted you before. Now I doubt it, but if I have.
I just remember a couple times somebody asking if I wanted to talk to Canadian Catholic, or maybe it was you asking in my, it does come disingenuous to me that he's denying that. But again, I could, and I told this to James is Tired after the stream, I could be completely wrong about that. Like, I get approached by so many Christians. I've been approached by several different Catholics. Canadian Catholic stands out. Like, I have a memory of the guy trying to talk to me once or twice, but I could be wrong about that. So it's just, it comes off, disingenuous to me, but I don't want to take away from the fact that he could just be telling the truth, and I've got the shit mixed up. My comments or something, I don't know. I remembered a couple things. Maybe I get approached by a lot of Christians.
It's fine. No, that's totally fine. I mean, again, I've contacted many people that I wanted to talk to. I forget a lot. Basically, if anything, I remembered or found out about you after James contacted me and said, do you want to do a debate? And I said, okay. And I checked out, you'd done a debate with Darth Dawkins. Now, I find Darth Dawkins to be a very...
I don't think James, and I said I ain't going to turn it, pause it all the goddamn time, but I keep doing it. But I don't think James approached you and said a debate, because a debate, for one, would have been a bit more structured. We would have had timed opening statements, possibly rebuttals, open conversation. It would have been a lot longer than 30 minutes. 30 minutes is a conversation, right? And James approached me with, like, hey, would you like to have a conversation with Canadian Catholic on my channel? It was never, debate was never a word in it. I think that just, there's debate bros out there that everything's a fucking debate to them. And I'm sorry, but, I kind of grew up old school when it comes to debating, right? Like, I have been debating a long time, politically at first, and I've done, I don't know, anywhere from 15 to 20 debates since I've been an atheist on YouTube. And at first, my religious debates didn't know what I was doing, and I admit that freely. I've actually reviewed some of them making fun of myself. Because religious debates are a bit different, but debates are formatted. At least, even modern day debate, even though they don't do real debates, like a real formal debate, you've got a very specific topic, and you're corresponding with your interlocutor, right? I am going to be talking about this. Here's my arguments. They're giving you your arguments. You can prepare to argue against their arguments. They can prepare to argue against your arguments. That's a formal debate. But even modern day debate that doesn't do that still has a select amount of time openings, right? Sometimes they'll do a rebuttal, and then they'll have a select amount of time open conversation, and they'll give you that format going into a fucking debate. This is a conversation. And a lot of Christians do this. Like, you don't understand the fucking difference here. We're just having a conversation, bro. This isn't a formal debate. This isn't me trying to get one up on you, although I have my own agenda, and I am going to blindside you with it, I think. I'm not there to debate you. I'm there to try to understand you. That's what a conversation is for. That's what a dialogue is for, is to develop an understanding. But a lot of these Christians and a lot of atheists as well have this debate me bro attitude. And I love a good debate when it's a debate. A conversation is a different thing.
Entertaining individual. Yeah, he's a very.
I've only had like one real, maybe two conversations with Darth when I knew he was Darth. But I mean, it was. I mean, the second one was the Brett Keane fiasco. Like the first time, I had no idea who Darth Dawkins was, or that I was talking to Darth Dawkins, and it was kind of funny. I mean, you say debate. I look at this as a conversation. If I'm talking about a debate, it would have been a very structured topic. A formal debate, we would have exchanged ideas on what we were going to talk about. There's been no kind of correspondence. I have no idea. I'm just kind of coming into this with my ideas of, like I'm an atheist, and I particularly find theism and Christianity specifically to be rather silly. Like for me, if I was like to look at it critically, I would, for one, go with like a much older God interpretation, like something that's been around since like closer to the dawn of at least recorded history, something like Hinduism. Personally, I would probably find more merit in a lot of Native American spiritualities than I would ever find, truth seeking for Christianity. So I don't understand how you can like try to like dismiss my ability to seek truth when you seem pretty biased in your attempt to seek it yourself.
So what I'm going to say is that I can only judge based on what I've seen here. So I cannot judge based on what you do. Now, again, that's not a good thing.
I put together like a little opening statement I thought was pretty chill. All right, so like you can only judge based on what you've seen there, but everything that you've seen there, you just completely dismissed and refused to listen to or even address. You never address the fact that you believe in a God that watches and listens to all of these parents pleading for the lives of their children and does nothing. You asked me, and you're going to ask me as we get into this, for a logical problem of evil debate, but I've already presented that to you, and you just refused to address it, and you called it a fucking fallacy. You dismissed everything right from the get. Right from the get. Because I'm an atheist. You must dismiss it. And I'm not even gonna lie, we do that too. Because we are settled in what we think and believe. But the thing is this. As settled as we are, people have shown that even we have the ability to change our minds because we've seen it with other people. Most recently, all over, this community, we've seen it with Khalil Allah. Converted to Islam from atheism. There is this ability, but you got to find that right tone. I don't try to find it. But if you if I'm not in the saving souls business myself, that's not what I'm here for. I'm in the, let's become politically aware and aware of reality business. And I think that sometimes takes and requires blunt speech. You, my friend, are in the saving souls business. So you better start saving my goddamn soul instead of belittling me and dismissing me. And do Christians not think that they're going to face the wrath for that? Because God is fucking wrathful. If your God exists and you didn't try to save my soul and you just came at me condescending as fuck, you don't think God going to hold you to account? He is a fucking vindictive little son of a bitch. We know this. Oh, there I go being blasphemous. Y'all.
No, that's fine. But so there is instances where I've behaved bad, and like if you go even on my YouTube, I got plenty of apology videos, so I can't judge based on my performance. All I'm saying is that from what I've seen currently, I just don't think it's a constructive way to go on when you're making so many fallacious arguments. So now to get back to the topic, I'm going to say what I believe. I believe I'm a Roman Catholic.
I mean, a fallacious argument. I spoke of like children dying and granting the existence of a Christian God watching that. How's that fallacious?
So the first three were fallacious. The fourth one was not strictly speaking a fallacy, but there was no structure to the argument. So it was made. So the problem of evil either has a logical structure, or an evidential
Uh,
scripture. I
so
didn't.
I need to like present syllogisms for this.
No, you don't need to, but you have to present an idea of how, for example, God is
Uh,
incompatible, and so
so
you.
give me a lesson on how I should debate you.
I mean, I came to debate, not to teach. Sorry. So
I don't think you can sense my sarcasm there.
no. So yeah. So I was basically. So my view, I'm going to just share my view, and I mean you
Cool.
can agree. So like I have a lot of respect for atheists. I don't have much respect for new atheism, because I think that new
You
atheism.
keep saying that, like you're like putting me in, like with
I'm not
Hitchens and
talking
that. That's
about.
pretty cool.
I'm not talking about you. I'm just saying in general. I have a lot of respect
Mm.
for atheism as a position because it has a lot to teach us. New atheism is fundamentally wrong. It's an intellectual garbage that we need to throw away. Not because people are atheists, not because they don't believe in God. That's again a reasonable position. I'm saying it's garbage because it teaches us not to think critically. We need to think critically. We need to engage with ideas.
Christianity teaches us to think critically, though.
Well, not all kinds of Christianity. There is
Oh, yeah,
that's like
Roman Catholic Christianity.
not all Roman Catholics. There are crazy Roman Catholics.
Your
So-
form of Roman Catholic Christianity.
Well, I try the best one. I've encountered many idiot Roman Catholics that are also
All
stupid.
right, continue. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I think that there are idiots on all sides.
I'm going to turn my camera off for just a moment. I'll be right back. But I'm listening. I'm listening, and
So, like, when I say that new atheism is bad, I'm not saying that there aren't equivalents. I see plenty of fundamentalist Roman Catholics that say just as ridiculous stuff. So my view is, again, that I am a Christian, meaning that I believe there is evidence, one, for God, and two, there is specific reason to prefer a specific model of God, and three, there is a good reason to believe that religion as a phenomenon has to do with God, and fourth, there is a reason to prefer one religion over other, which has to do with, I guess, evidence for Christianity. And well, we don't need to get any further than that. I mean, we're not interested in further. So I don't see why I should abandon that one, and I don't see why you wouldn't want to engage with that seriously rather than just asserting it's silly to me, right? So.
Well, I tried to. I mean, so like, all right, I am gonna let this play for a minute, but I catch a lot of flack when I say shit like that. And I understand that when I say I think your God is silly, that I am going to rub you the wrong way. I do it on purpose because they do it to us all the fucking time. And I do that on purpose because I want to see how you're going to react to it. And I think that it affected CC here through this entire conversation. I think it offended him. And honestly, it shouldn't. You're talking to a fucking atheist. You're not only talking to just an atheist that never believed in a God, but you're talking to an atheist that believed in the Christian God at one point and rejected it. It should not surprise you. And I should not have to pad my wording to appease your sensibilities. Of course, I find your God to be silly. Of course I do. Or I would not have rejected it. All right, I'm going to let it play for a bit. I'm going to try. It gets hard for me sometimes because I like to talk. If I'm thinking like of the Holy Roman Catholic Church, I think you don't want to include any of the history, but I look at the fact that they were castrating their choir boys back in the 1800s, to preserve their youth-like beautiful voices. Damn it, Will! I'm gonna talk, and then I'm like, Will is like, my camera's off because of whatever, ice cream. No, my camera's off because the light is shit. In fact, I'll show you right now. I couldn't get my lighting right, so let me see right here. It's not as bad as it was. It's not as bad as it was. Actually, it's not as bad as it was. Maybe I'll turn it on at some point. But right now, I'm smoking a little bit of weed, so right now it's not a good time. Definitely better than it was when I was trying to have my camera on earlier. All right, I'm gonna be quiet for a minute. Let's listen to a bit. I find that to be atrocious. I wouldn't, I would dismiss that out of hand. I would say that if there's a God, guiding this institution, then screw that God, right?
Yeah, so again, that's another form of just not wanting
It's
to.
a genetic fallacy. I know. God dang it.
Yeah, so you should
Stupid
avoid.
history and the lessons it can teach.
Okay, so you want to avoid fallacies. You don't want to repeat them after you've been doing. That's
I'm just talking about, like, why don't I want to be a Catholic? Well, that's one of the reasons. Call it an appeal to emotion if you want to, but it's just a fact that happened within the history of the Catholic Church.
Look, nobody's forcing you to abandon your views.
I'm not forcing you to abandon. I've never asked you to abandon your views. I don't understand like what that even means. Like, why are you trying to put that on me when I've never done that? I don't understand. Like, are you here trying to get me to change my views? Because you're not doing a very good job of it. Yeah, real quick, purple rhymes with orange. I need better ring lights as well. I could use my green screen at night if I had better ring lights. So, my walls are white. So it does. I've often said, like I'm gonna spend some money on the background and shit, but I'm a Poe dude. So if I had some better ring lights, I could actually use my green screen when I do these night streams. But I don't even use my green screens during the day because I'm lazy. So I admit it. I bought the damn green screen and hardly ever use it because I do know like my background is just jacked. So, all right, I'm going to let this play, but then I'm going to have to address it for a bit because we're into the like history part and he doesn't want to talk about the history of the Catholic Church. Now, I understand you're there to have a philosophical conversation, but you're there to defend your theism, and your theism is holy Roman Catholic bullshit. Defend your theism, defend the history of your church. Tell me why you're still associated with this church. And I don't even bring up the sexual molestation, but I'm going to here tonight, y'all. Because, I mean, how the fuck is anybody a Catholic still? I need to know. But all right, I'm going to be quiet for a minute. You're just kind of like being condescending and dismissive.
No, I was interested in having a conversation. So
Mike doesn't seem that way, but go ahead.
Right. So now I gave you 4 points, which is that I'm a Christian because one, I believe that we have to.
There's evidence for God.
Yeah, so I think that there's good reason to think that there's God, and not just God, but a specific version of God, a model of God, which I identify with the classical theist tradition. I also have sympathies for the neoclassical theist tradition, and I think both traditions would exclude, or at least the second one would mostly exclude certain versions of God, right? So, for example, polytheism, pantheism would be out. So we don't need to worry about those. And I think from classical theism, and maybe some versions of neoclassical theism, it would follow that there is a theistic God, not a deistic version, but a theistic God. And I think that we can infer some things about it from the way the world is and have reasonably good, we have good, I guess, evidential reasons to believe that religious phenomenon is not merely unconnected to God. It is connected to God. And I think that then we have to simply find which religion is something that has evidence behind it. And I think there's only a set number that could be after we make the necessary corrections. And we, I think, are brought back to Abrahamics, which is, again, so do you want me to start and say why I go through all of these steps, or what would you prefer?
Quite honestly, y'all, like listening back to it, it still doesn't make much sense to me. And I was reading some of the comments in the side chat at the time as I was watching this back earlier, and I was reading. Let's go up here. I was reading some of the comments, and yeah, I just don't think that his argumentation is very coherent because I think I've thrown him off. I don't think he's used to this kind of conversation. And you call it dumbing it down. I will call it that myself. I dumbed it down for him, and he didn't know how to respond. And I think Will is completely right. It's two very different conversations going on here. So I brought up the history of his church. I brought up the history of the tradition that he follows, the tradition that he has made the claim 3 times now in this stream, at least, is the truth. The truth. So defend that tradition. defend that institution. Now, I had brought up briefly the castration of choir boys. In the 17th century, nearly all musical compositions were religious. This was a great source of revenue for the Catholic Church, who had their altar boys, who was pretty much had the corner market on religious music. The Catholic Church began a practice of castrating its choir boys to preserve their voices. They wanted to preserve those childlike voices, and guess what? It pretty much worked. With the peak of popularity with this practice in the 18th century, boys 7 to 9 years old were forced to have their genitals removed in order to preserve their childlike voices. But even though I just said the peak of the practice was during the 18th century, this is not that old. The Sistine Chapel continued to use castrated boys until 1903. Now, I told you guys I had information on a bit of the sexual molestation, but I wasn't even going to bring that part up. I was just going to reference that I wasn't bringing that up. But John Joggin molested up to 130 boys. Lawrence Murphy raped over 200 deaf and disabled boys. Murphy never faced any justice while he lived, and when buried, he was buried with the full honor of a Holy Roman Catholic priest. These are just two of over 3,000 priests that have been accused of sexual molestation in the last 50 years alone. Now, we have history, I think, that states that the first accusations of molestations actually go back to the 10th century, I believe, like 1100s. I could be wrong on the dates, but I mean, we're talking about a practice within the Catholic Church of molesting boys, particularly young boys, very young boys. That's nearly 1,000 years old. This issue was only really starting to be revealed in the 1980s. How many centuries did this go on? How many, millennia did this go on? Pope Francis himself addressed the issue, declaring that about 2% of priests are pedophiles. A staggering number, meaning about 1 in 50 priests across the world are pedophiles. If you break those numbers down, that gives you over 4,000 pedophile priests in America alone. Given authority, trusted by parents, trusted by their community, and they're criminals. They're predators. I will speak at some point during this stream about the Magdalene asylums. Laundries suspected of sexual laundries that women were sent to who were suspected of sexual promiscuity. Pretty much, a family member said, she whores herself, we don't like her. And they would send these women in Ireland to these laundries that were for profit. All of the profits went to the Catholic Church. Forced labor. These women were subjected to sexual abuse, physical abuse, and forced labor 7 days a week. We didn't even know about this until 1933, when somebody accidentally dug up a mass grave in Ireland of thousands of women who had no death certificates. Their families were never informed. This is the Catholic Church. It has a history, and it's not a fucking fallacy. It's what happened. And if this God is overlooking this church, fuck that God. But I'm not done. Up to 300,000 children were stolen from their parents during the Franco dictatorship in Spain, starting in the 1930s. Most were sold into child labor or illegal adoption. This was carried out with the cooperation of the Catholic Church in Spain, who was heavily involved in Spain's social services, including hospitals, adoption services, and schools. This continued even after the death of Franco into the late 1980s. Catholic nuns, Catholic priests, involved with adoption, involved in schools, involved in hospitals and giving birth, stealing babies from parents that trusted them. Where is the truth of the Catholic God in that? Where is the truth of the Catholic God in that, my friends? And why are you so eager to escape a discussion about the history of the institution you claim to be the truth? But you're going to dismiss my truth-seeking abilities and call them fallacious? You shouldn't get away with that. It is highly suspected that throughout World War II, the Catholic Church helped funnel Nazi gold and then used said gold to help Nazis escape justice after the war. Neo-Nazis, fascists, Catholic Church, oversaw by a Catholic God, helped them to escape justice for their Holocaust, their genocide. How about the Croatian Holocaust? Refers to the genocide of Serbs, Jews, and other ethnic minorities during World War II within the independent state of Croatia. The concentration camps were set up throughout the country and run by Catholic priests. Is this a genetic fallacy? That I would just want to understand why anybody in this modern fucking age with the facts of this institution would still involve themselves with this institution? I don't think that's a genetic fallacy. I think that that's very relevant. But I don't get to bring up most of that because he doesn't want to talk about any of that. He just wants to dismiss me. So let's get back to it, y'all. I had to bring that up because I had all that shit prepared, but he didn't want to talk about it. He didn't want to talk about it at all. I mean, it seems like you're saying a lot, but I don't really understand what your reasoning behind it is, right? So, you believe that there's evidence for God, but you haven't laid out any evidence for God or any evidence that I should take as some stepping stone, I guess, to you changing in my worldview. You just dismiss polytheism and all of those religions. Like I mentioned Hinduism before. It's only like the oldest religion on the planet. 1 point something billion Hindus in India would probably say, don't dismiss us so easily. You say there's evidential reasons to believe religious phenomenon, but yet you don't lay out any of those evidential reasons to believe religious phenomenon.
So I just gave you an outline to see where I wanted to start, right? So I
didn't start where you want to start, but please do something. I don't quite get where we're going here.
Yeah, so I think the reason we have to believe in God is mainly has to do with empirical reasons, what we observe in the universe. So I think there's a couple of things that we can point to. So the one I run, I think I like Avicenna's argument for God, Avicenna's cosmological argument for God. I think it's a very good one, which divides things into possible and necessary. And many people, intuitively think there's nothing wrong with that. Like there's possible things, there's necessary things. And Avicenna argued in his Metaphysics, I actually have a video on this, I'm going to plug it, that if we start with this distinction between possible and necessary, we can, for example, look at possible things and see that possible things are not necessary through themselves. They fundamentally depend on something else to explain them. So then the question is, well, when we take together all things that are dependent, everything together that is dependent, are all dependent things themselves collected as a group themselves necessary through themselves or dependent, right? And the obvious answer is they have to be dependent, but they can't be dependent on anything dependent because everything dependent is already in the set. So the only thing they can depend on is something that's necessary through itself, meaning that something that isn't explained by anything else. And this is basically what God is for us, that which is necessity through itself. And this again gives us good grounds for divine simplicity, which again would exclude non-classical models of God. And I think my first two steps are accomplished with that argument alone.
Okay. So possible things and necessary things. What are those? What possible things and what necessary things? They have to be dependent, but can't be dependent. I don't quite get what you're trying to say. Like, I thought we were going to have a conversation about Christianity and atheism. I understand you want to have a conversation on philosophy. Anybody that knows me well would have told you that's like not going to happen.
I offered you 4 points, and you told me to start where I wanted. I started from 1.
Yeah.
And now
but I didn't understand kind of like what's the point of that argument? Like, all right, so it completely blew by me because it makes no sense to me.
You want to explore it?
Like, I'd rather talk to you about your Catholic Church. Okay. Like, I'm trying to understand why you would be a Catholic. Why not like follow Wonka Tonka or Allah, or why are you a Catholic? It seems to me that you would be defending your Catholicism as something that is like this truth that I should be interested in, and you're coming at me with possible things and necessary things, like kind of like a justification for God, I guess, what is possible and what is necessary, God being the necessary thing, what doesn't have to necessarily be possible. I don't know. It seems like a bunch of hogwash. I'd rather talk about the Catholic Church because I don't understand how you follow that.
Guys, 10 minutes and then questions. So 10 more minutes.
Yeah, I didn't think we had too long.
Tag me in the audience with any questions.
30 minutes for it. And real quick, about 10 minutes left in the conversation part. Again, a 30-minute conversation. Like, if you want to have a philosophical conversation with an atheist, for one, go talk to a philosopher. There's quite a few out there. I personally know Nicholas Sutton, philosopher, atheist. Have that conversation. Danny, sit here, talk to you for hours on philosophy. We have a 30 conversation to talk about my atheism versus your Holy Roman Catholicism. If you want to have a philosophy conversation, you're going to need more than 30 minutes, my dude. Just saying. And then you're going to want to have it with a fucking philosopher that might be able to educate you, because that's not me. That ain't me.
Go on.
30 minutes for an extensive philosophical debate. I don't think you thought this one through too much.
Yeah, so first of all, given that you demonstrate you don't understand this argument, I don't know why you would call it hogwash. You can just say, okay, I don't understand it, and that's fine. I'm not forcing you. So once again,
it's like the same thing. It's it's hogwash to me. It's not what I'm here to talk about. Like, you're not like defending your Catholic truth to me. You're like giving me some philosophical jargon.
How am I supposed to defend Catholicism without reasoning skills? I don't understand.
Obviously, because I think you understand Catholicism is indefendable, and that's why you like just immediately dismiss any like history associated. Like, I don't understand how anybody in the modern age still follows such a barbaric tradition as Catholicism.
So, do you have a criticism that's not a fallacy of Catholicism?
Its entire history. Do you guys just hear the complete dismissal? Now, you're right. Like, I should have just said it. But again, we only have 30 minutes, and I didn't want to bombard him. Like, my goal truly wasn't to, like, like catch a deer in the headlights. And I honestly thought, being a Catholic, he probably understood the history of the Catholic Church and would actually have some defenses or at least some justifications for it, or at least say, hey, that was in the past. I could have brought, the couple that actually went into the 1900s up. Like, that's not too far in the past, but I mean, and especially like the sexual molestation, it goes on even today. They're still hiding and covering up priests today. But like, he just dismisses them. He just dismisses anything, any criticism of the institution that is supposedly oversaw by the one truth, which is the Holy Roman Catholic God. But me, I'm just a stupid ass fucking raging atheist that's everything's a goddamn fallacy. He's not the worst Christian I've talked to. But my dude, don't be Darth Dawkins. Listen to who you're talking to. Try to have an understanding. Use your human empathy to try to have an understanding. I'm trying to understand how you personally justify your faith, this truth that you have, considering the face of the atrocities of the institution you follow. But I do have him on the defensive because you know what he's about to do. I called it earlier. Got to go to Stalin. Got to go to Stalin, y'all. This is a criticism to me. I would never follow something like that. Like, you know, I got out of the evangelical church because I wasn't too keen on the abuses that I saw there. But like that, it pales in comparison to what you see throughout the history of the Catholic Church.
So how a church's history makes you feel has little to do with how true it is.
I'm just trying to understand why you would associate with it.
Because I believe it's true, and I believe that truth is what I ought to pursue and not what I like.
So he's dismissing everything, but at the same time saying it's okay because it's true. You know, the Catholic God is true, so it's okay. It doesn't matter how it makes you feel. Like, I'm sorry that, you know, child rape makes me feel a certain type of way. You know, sorry, not sorry about that, yo. Sorry, not sorry. I'm sorry. You know, I like my penis. That I can empathize with 7 to 9-year-old boys who had their penises removed so they could sing pretty. Even if they existed 100 to 300 years ago, I can empathize with them. You know why? Because I like my penis. I wouldn't want to lose it like that. And I know Will's going to say, well, you already have. Love the memes. I can empathize with that. And I'm sorry that it makes me feel some kind of way. But I'm there to tell you that that's why I'm not a fucking Catholic. Why are you? Why are you a Catholic of all things? You could follow the Christian God and not be a fucking Catholic. And you know, I understand, like, here in America, Catholics are somewhat liberal. They're like my team on the political aisle. Like, they tend to vote Democrats nowadays. I don't care about all of that. I don't care. I don't play team sports. For one, they have an atrocious history when it comes to LGBTQ plus rights, an atrocious history when it comes to fucking little boys. So fuck them. Tell me why. It doesn't hurt your feels, my dude, because it should. It's true. It's true. So does that like justify the atrocious things they've done throughout history? So you just ignore it?
He said anything about justifying. I'm not justifying anything. You asked me, why are you a Catholic? I told you because I value truth. If Catholicism had no history and it was false, I wouldn't follow it, right? I mean, I'm sure that whatever.
Like his answer was literally, I follow Catholicism because it was like the oldest Christianity, you know, because so that's the truth. Like that, I mean, for a dude that tries to pretend to be smart, I don't know, CC. I'm not, you know, I'm definitely not the brightest apple in the bunch. But I don't know if you're sitting too far ahead of me there, dude. I don't think you're much higher in that bunch. if this was the truth and this had this like, you know, truth being behind it, this all powerful God that obviously I should be following. Don't you think that the history would reflect that, and that they would have been, I don't know, empowered by said God and not to do some atrocious things? Like I only mentioned the castration of the choir boys. I didn't even get into the sexual molestation.
Yeah, so that's another version of the problem of evil. So before I respond to that, I want to hear the way you lay it out. Because is it a logical problem? Is it just an evidential problem?
I mean, I think it's just a huge problem altogether for any Christian. I mean, if you... All right, so there might be a little longer than 10 minutes. I'm going to let this bitch play for a minute. But I keep saying that, but you know, I presented a problem of evil in my opening statement. At this point, we're to a problem of absurdity. It's beyond that. It's beyond your logical reasoning, my dude. It's just practical reality. This is a problem of absurdity at this point. It's not a problem of evil. It's practically fucking absurd to believe in this shit. With the scope of the modern world we live in, almost 9 billion people on this planet with a plethora of religions, faiths, deities, cultures, practices, traditions. If there was one true God of this one world that's supposedly the center of a universe that is so big we can't even fucking imagine it at this point, and it's getting bigger, not smaller. It's not a problem of evil. It's a problem of blatant absurdity. You think that a God is watching this modern planet and that
lay out the problem or just repeat it?
Say what?
So,
Good fact. Am I mute? All right. Good fact. Perfect one. That I did not get into my research, so thank you. If that's true, which I have no reason to think it's not, it was not the penis that was removed when they were castrated. It was the testicles. So yeah, good little tidbit of information there that wasn't in my research. Thank you.
lay out the problem. Is it supposed to be a logical contradiction between a powerful God and church members who sin, or is it supposed to be an evidential? What's the problem?
All right, unmute. I guess my little analogy of how I like my penis doesn't quite work then, but facts are facts, and thank you for it.
Just your emotional response?
I guess.
So why do I care about your emotional response?
I don't expect you to. I'm just laying out why I'm an atheist, dude.
No, but you told me that you had criticism of the Catholic Church that you wanted me to address, and so far you've given me either fallacies or emotional problems. So I want to hear a criticism that's not either one.
Fallacies are like, it's not true that they were castrating their altar boys.
I don't know about castration of altar boys.
That's not true. How about the Magdalene asylums? Is that true?
I mean, I'm not a historian of early modern Ireland.
Like, wouldn't you want to like know the history of the institution that you associate yourself with?
I'm interested in.
I mean, I'm an atheist. I guess you could probably put Stalin on me, maybe, but I mean that would be a stretch. I mean, but like Catholicism is clearly just directly responsible for some atrocious things in the past. I mean, and not even the distant past. We're talking like the sexual molestation. This is currently happening. There's like, at least by Pope Francis's number, at least 4,000 pedophiles in the Catholic Church right now as priests in America alone.
So was this a conversation about which of our world?
I don't know. Like, this was just a conversation about theism and atheism. So I came to here as an atheist to talk to you about your Catholicism.
So
that's all I was told. You know, atheism versus your theism.
So I came in. I wanted to make a case for theism. You cut me off.
Maybe if you want to have a philosophy conversation, you should specify that with your interlocutor. Maybe
I don't know. Any conversation that doesn't involve fallacies.
Oh, well, then you're probably talking the wrong dude, because I'm interested in history, man. I'm interested in the reality of your truth claims here. You claim that the Catholic worldview is the truth and the one that I should be following. So explain to me why. Why should I overlook all of these things?
You don't have to overlook it. You just have to say that, okay, so there's history to it.
So I should just accept the God that's overlooking these things?
Well, I mean, you have to first lay out what the problem is, right? So you're saying there's a God and there's atrocious things that have happened. Now you have to ask yourself, well, what's the argument I'm making? What's the problem that I'm saying? Is there's a logical tension between these? Okay, so
that's a very good point in the side chat, real quick, so I have to stop it. At a time when a cut was a death sentence, yup, chop their balls off, Dr. Osiris. That's a very true statement. Actually, 80% from my studies, this is fact as far as I know it. 80% of the people that were castrated died from the surgery. So yeah, very true statement there, Dr. Osiris.
Let's say there's a logical tension. Well, then how do we cash out that logic?
I'm trying to get you to explain, why should I follow the God that, you know, is for the church that you know, helped the Nazis get away after World War II, responsible for the Croatian Holocaust during World War II. You know, the church that stole 300,000 babies in Spain through and selling those babies into illegal adoption. Like, why should I overlook this institution and this truth and the God that's overseeing this institution and this truth? Call it fallacious. I'm just wondering, you know, why would I ever want to be a Catholic?
Yeah, so like, I mean, you keep asking me that question every time I try to answer. You ask me,
that's kind of the conversation I came to have.
Okay, that's fine, but I'm happy to answer that. So you're saying that I guess the existence of evil is a deal breaker for you. So I'm just trying to figure out in what way it's a deal breaker. Is it a
Well, I mean, it would be like a deal breaker for an institution I'm going to associate with myself with. Like atheism is no institution, right? So there can be plenty of shitty atheists out there. They're not doing it because they're atheists. They're doing it because they're shitty people. I'm talking about an institution that has done corrupt and very evil things throughout its history. Why should I think that I mean, you started the conversation by dismissing my truth-seeking abilities. Why should I trust yours when you latch yourself onto this? That is what I'm asking.
First of all, that was another fallacy. That was a special pleading fallacy. So
Cool. I'm pretty good at that, I guess.
okay, so you said that anybody
Let's not address the arguments here. Let's just let's not address the history. Let's not address any of the things that I'm saying. Not a goddamn thing in this entire conversation. And again, dude wasn't that bad compared to most Christians I talk to. Seems like a pretty decent dude. He just believes what he believes, and my existence offends him. But just dismiss everything I said. And, I didn't even remember this part. When I was watching it back, I didn't make it this far into it. That I did actually, I didn't go into in depth as I did here on this stream, but I did actually kind of lay out some of the things. And that's just some of the things. Like, if I really wanted to lay out a list of all the things the Catholic Church has done, this would be a 24-hour fucking stream, right? Like, you're talking damn near, if not 2,000 years of history. Not good history. People get so fucking butthurt about history and the institutions that they support blindingly, like America. You bring up just a simple fact about America. Hey, you want to talk about World War II and the genocide of the Jews? That's great and all. How about we recognize the genocide of the Native Americans that America did right here? Oh, wait a minute. America's exceptional. How could you say that? Are you a traitor? No, it's history. It happened. Don't be blind to it. And how can you associate yourself with a fucking institution that is clearly not overseen by like any just God, any God that you would find truth in? This isn't even a conversation about the Christian God. It's a conversation about the Catholic Church and the things that they continue to do because they have the support of people like you. Giving them their, 10%? Making them rich, as people like you have done for 2,000 years now. Making them rich and wealthy and giving them power over yourself and your children. You know what? If it's fallacies, I'll take it. But it's also fucking history, my dude. And again, you're not a bad dude. You're not the worst Christian I've ever talked to. Very dismissive, very condescending, and not quite ready for a real conversation. An atheist. Stop giving these fuckers what they want. Stop legitimizing them with their philosophy. Because they will not give you any legitimacy. I don't care how nice you are, how you try to be, playing the higher ground and, they go low, we go high, Michelle Obama bullshit. They don't care. They will just dismiss you too. So stop legitimizing them and giving them the conversations they want, because these philosophies of theirs, they're just ancient fucking justifications that has been combated by smarter people than we already, and no need to do it again. Seriously? For fuck's sake?
who's an atheist that does shitty things, or atheists who do shitty things, don't do it because they're atheists, right? And
well, I mean, maybe some of them, I guess, but I mean, it's not like an institution that I can just leave. It's I deny the existence of God, therefore we use the term atheist for that. Like theism,
But I'm
you
in the
latched
same.
onto this very specific form of this
No,
Abrahamic religion.
no, but I have the same situation, I guess, that as you. I'm convinced, as you are, that God doesn't exist. That Pope was chosen by God, for example, and so, like, or whatever.
So, give me evidence. Why would you think that? Why? What good, sound, logical reasoning do you have behind thinking that God chose the Pope?
Yeah, so that's a worldview level question. So, I mean, assuming that the views are granted, I mean, the first three steps that you're not interested in, then I would say it has to do with theoretical virtues. So we take the worldviews that are left for us, and we compare the theoretical virtues. So I would argue, well, I would argue that in theoretical virtues, Christianity has benefit, right? As in, like, it has an edge over other similar religions. And then, of course,
I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to because it's truth and it actually made national news. Perfect One says Catholic Church has used its institutional organization and powers to prostitute children who are placed in their care with the idea that they would be placed into adoption, not prostitution. And that's 100% truth. But if you guys remember, like 2-3 years ago, this Italian dude, I can't remember his name, came out with this little black book. He was the pimp of gay prostitutes to cardinals and priests within the Vatican itself. It made national news, and then you haven't heard anything about it. Just like you didn't hear much about, that little black book of Jeffrey Epstein, nothing new really came out of the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. This institutional fucking pedophilia goes deep, and it's. I don't want to feed conspiracy theories, but they always talk about democratic fucking pizza shops, but the real truth of the matter is that people of power and wealth use their power and wealth to usually do bad shit, and the Catholic Church is a perfect fucking example of that. And while I usually try not to be just bigoted as fuck like I am being tonight, but there is no reason to give any respect to this institution. And while I might, in an open room with 10 people in the room, not go into these details with the Catholic, it's happened a few times on Gerstream, the Catholic that comes there, he seems like a pretty decent dude. But if I have a chance one-on-one to ask you directly, I'm going to do it. And it's been said in the side chat, and I think it's been clearly evident here. Unfortunately, not many Catholics understand the history of the institution that they associate themselves with. Not surprising, because people are fucking stupid.
Question becomes between various versions of Christianity. So, of course, we want to eliminate the bad versions because I don't think they have high probability of being true, like, for example, Mormonism or maybe Seventh-day Adventism. So we're left with classical traditions, which is Protestants, Orthodoxy, something. And I think Catholicism is preferable, maybe due to several historical claims. I think that the Bishop of Rome has a very early existence in the church. I think it's something that would be supported by evidence, so on and so forth. So, I mean, it's a very worldview level claim, right? But yeah, so that was your special pleading, I think, right? And that's what I hear a lot. Now, not that I'm insisting. I don't like this argument from atrocities. I think if every single atheist kills people, right, and atheism is still true, I think we should be atheists. I don't buy this argument that people should abandon atheism because people kill babies in the name of atheism. But I think that
they don't, though.
Oh, sure. Like I don't believe that atheism leads people to kill babies any more than Catholicism leads.
Like what kind of example even is that? Like, seriously. Because, atheists don't go around killing babies. Like, what the fuck? He didn't say eat babies, but, like, he's thinking it, right? Like, what is that even? But let's continue. I think we're about done with the conversation part. But, I mean, some people kill abortion doctors in the name of Christianity.
Right, but I think that you exhibited a double standard.
See, that's a real example. That's a real example. Atheists don't kill babies just because they're atheists, but you know what? Christians do kill abortion doctors because they're Christians. Just don't go around killing babies like you said, but some Christians do go around killing abortion doctors just because, their Christianity tells them that abortion doctors are bad.
Yeah, so atheists have actually killed a lot of babies and children. If you look at, for example, Soviet Union, we used to have the League of
There we
Millions.
go. Put Stalin on us.
No, I'm not.
You love to do it.
I don't love to do it. I'm doing a.
Not you specifically, Christians as a whole.
But I'm saying that if you are the
All right, so there he goes with that. Like real quick. All right, my mic is on. Real quick, I'm not gonna like stop it for too long, but like there's the Stalin thing. But you could say like I did mention it twice, so I could have put it in his head. But like they always go there. So let me tell you. For one, communism is not atheism. Communism is kind of like a pipe dream, really, that's never really been practiced in reality. Maybe for a couple years there at the maybe the first couple years after the revolution before Stalin ever really gained power. But what Stalin did was authoritarian. What Stalin did was protect his own power, purge Russia. Can't really put that on atheism. You might be able to put it on communism, but I don't even really think you can do that. I think you put that on authoritarian dictatorship and a crazy ass madman. But quite different, and I am accepting and embracing socialism now. So I will even, I am an atheist socialist. I'm not a Stalinist. You can't put that on me. I don't associate myself with that institution. You have told me that Holy Roman Catholic is the truth. There's a difference there. But they always got to go to Stalin. Even though I might have put it in his head, because I did bring it up a couple times.
one that likes this argument, so I'm doing a
I kind of called this earlier in the conversation, though.
So this is a reductio of your argument. You're saying that if we should reject propositional claims because of bad things done in the name of it, then you're forced to reject atheism because you are left with the League of
So was Stalin's purge done in the name of atheism?
Yeah, League of Militant Atheists. Look it up.
That's just like he's either stupid or he's lying. Not about the League of Atheists thing. But he knows better. He's smarter than this. But I backed him into a corner throughout this entire thing. I made him very, very uncomfortable. So now he's responding a bit. It wasn't his authoritarian government trying to purge and get his absolute power. It had nothing to do with it.
Sure. That also, and also the League of Militant Atheists.
It had nothing to do with the government. This is pretty bad, but it's funny.
But it's bad because it's your argument.
Whatever.
You made the argument that we should reject truth claims based on atrocious history.
No, I don't lash myself. I don't lash myself to Stalinism or Soviet Russia. If anything, Soviet Russia is the perfect example that you can't repress religion, right? And I'll grant, in the ideal communist society, religion just wasn't a thing. And Soviet Russia tried to repress religion. And you've seen, not only did you see the results of that during, how it just was atrocious, led to genocide, but outside of that, you see Russia now, who is a fundamental Christian fucking nation now. I mean, you see you see Russia pass legislation that's just fundamentally Christian in nature, death for gay people. You see the results of that. Socialism isn't something stagnant, stuck in 1939. It learns from its mistakes. And that's an economic and political philosophy that I personally do not associate myself with. I'm a socialist, but I'm not a Stalinist. I'm not a Maoist. I don't personally believe in revolution. I think that you can achieve it through political means, even if it takes generations, and I might not be here to see it. Quite different than somebody that actually claims the institution, embraces the institution, and not only embraced it, but several times today said it is the truth. in this conversation. My dude, I backed you into a corner. You were not prepared for this conversation, just like I'm not prepared for a philosophy conversation. We're human. You're not that bad a dude, but you need to learn how to talk to us, because we're atheists. And we're pretty settled in our fucking beliefs. And we're here to say, acknowledge us, because we're here. And we find your shit pretty silly, but we also find it pretty fucking dangerous. I don't latch myself to that institution whatsoever. It's quite different. You're trying to link the two, but it's kind of a far stretch, because you have to understand that the religion of the institution that you have latched yourself to is indeed atrocious. There's no real good reason to continue to be in this institution. There are plenty of other interpretations outside of this evil institution that you could fall to, still get the same, pretty much the same thing. I do understand Catholicism is a bit different than the rest of them.
Yeah, so just in conclusion, I'm going to say these, right? I came here to debate either Christianity or theism versus atheism. I'm going to say my concluding remarks, and you're free to say. I got nothing other than a genetic fallacy, strawman fallacies, question-begging fallacies.
Love those fallacies.
Unstructured problem of evil here, multiple genetic fallacies, in fact, and nothing other than emotional response from Catholic history.
Yeah, good point. Jay Passix, just seeing that you're here tonight. What's up, Jay? Good point. It might be the mistake of them thinking that an ideology is cemented in its initial ideas without progressiveness. Yeah, exactly. And, I got in this conversation with Smokey Saint on his stream the other day, because they were like knocking Rebecca. I'm like I've said a billion times, I'm sure there's, if you're not familiar with who Rebecca is, she's a Christian chick, I can't remember her YouTube name, so I'm not going to help you out much there. But she pretty much accepts gay people and thinks that they can be saved. And Smokey Saint's going on this tirade, and it's like, yeah, I admit it to them freely. According to your Bible, I think it takes some mental gymnastics to get over that hump, but once you get over it, I'm all for it, because you must progress. We live in a fucking world now, and if you want your Christianity to not be this barbaric thing that just eventually dies out on its own, it must progress with the new times. It must be progressive. So yeah, really good point there.
I got no engagement with my Avicenna's argument other than calling it hogwash without even understanding it. I got no engagement with my theoretical virtues model. I got no,
like, it was like hogwash. I mean, seriously, I don't even think like philosophers would have really followed what you were putting down there, my dude.
By 4 steps. I got no coherent
bread of life. Yeah, thank you, SBM.
Jesus, Bible, or theism. So, I mean, you guys judge how this discussion went. I said my piece. That was my concluding remark.
Cool. You pretty much killed it, bro. You won a debate that wasn't a debate, that wasn't a conversation, that nobody knew what it was before when we was coming in, but it was a good conversation. I enjoyed it. I think that you're interesting. I would actually like to have a conversation with you on the Old Testament. Like, I want to see how literally you take it, what you believe. Like I didn't even throw any of that stuff at you. I just went Catholic Church stuff. I usually specialize with the whole baby killing thing in the Old Testament. I'm not interested in philosophy. I'm just interested in what the religion says. And if you think that I should follow this religion, then show me why I should. You're not going to get there through philosophy. You're going to need to do it through practicality and reality, because I don't see why in this reality your worldview is the easier option of the two. To me, it's a no-brainer. I'm not going to be a Catholic.
Okay, well,
I'm definitely not sending my kid to no Catholic church ever.
right.
ever forever.
All right, guys, that was
and that's literally how I ended the conversation part. Now, I do think I'm going to actually review the Q&A part, because I thought it was interesting and there was some good questions there. Probably not going to be as interesting as this stream, because this stream was interesting. And, Canadian Catholic out there, I've been harsh, but hopefully, I'll you take it as a grain of salt, and hopefully maybe you'll learn a few things. If you want to have philosophical conversations on YouTube, do you, bro? Do you, my dude? I don't care about that. If you want to have a conversation with me, it's not going to be that. Now, like I said at the very beginning of the stream, through this entire stream, my major mistake was the assumption that Canadian Catholics set this conversation up with an intention probably to catch me philosophically. That seems to be the rage with Christians right now, because I admit I'm no philosopher. And even in my studies of philosophy, I admit I kind of fucked that up, because I started with the ancients and everybody was like, why are you doing that? And I'm like, because I'm stupid. I'm fixing it now, and I'm still like enjoying my reading of the ancients. And, if I've heard people, like even philosophers, find the ancients hard to understand. And I'm like, well, goddamn, I must be a philosopher because I understand the ancients. It's these modern fuckers that kind of throw me. At least the ancients that I've read. And I've read Plato extensively at this point, Aristotle extensively at this point, Marcus Aurelius quite a little bit, a few others. But I fucked up because, should have started with these philosophy for dummy books, I guess. Because they seem to be a bit more informative when talking to these YouTube philosophers, or as I like to call them, armchair philosophers, because that's what they are. At least I don't fucking pretend. I'm not going to sit here and pretend for y'all that I am what I'm not. Although it seems quite a lot of people are willing to do that. I don't need to put on those masks. I'm just going to tell you it's silly. And if you want to do your deed, which is support the fucking claim that you make that this God exists, well, then you need to go about the business of saving my soul. Because I'm not here to save yours. I think you're pretty stupid. Honestly, if I'm being honest. Because you still have an imaginary friend. It's time to get over that. Grow up a bit. Realize this life is all you got. And it's a struggle, my dudes. Even for the best of us. Unless you're one of them goddamn fucking oligarchs. Fuck them. But all in all, condescension, snidiness aside, I really hope CC, and all of these YouTube philosophers understand a thing. While you can have your conversations about logic, the truth still remains that we atheists, we are here. We don't believe your bullshit, no matter how you spin it. Because we just don't see your God working in the world. I want to thank you guys for watching. Kind of late for me tonight. I'm going to bed. I'll see you guys soon. All right, real quick, Sidney Winston. All right, yeah, you're totally right. I did not commit the fallacies that I was accused of this entire conversation. I did not. So I will admit that, and thank you for pointing that out. Maybe other people did before. I did kind of say that earlier. Like, dude, you just dismissed me. I didn't commit any fallacies. Nice try, though. All right, y'all have a good night.